Okay, I see that we're all here, and we will basically continue where we left off last class period. One thing to make sure you know now, so you can, while you're bored, set this up, is if you're using your smartphone for your clicker, then it is channel web SNCN, or yeah. Boy, I think it is. I'm actually going to double check on that rather than tell you and be wrong. SCNC. Yeah, so it's short for, it's the prefix for this class. You'd think I'd know it. So it's web SCNC. My mistake. And if you're using a traditional clicker, then it is channel 33. So we will have some clicker questions. I just downloaded the clicker rosters, and I see that not everyone has theirs set up at this point. If you have a clicker, you can actually use it and then set it up later, and it will bring the scores forward. But I don't get scores until it's actually registered. Any questions about the clicker thing? Yeah.
How do you know if it's like ready?
Okay, so you logged in as you on the phone, right?
Yeah.
And then you joined session web SCNC.
Web SCNC?
Yeah. Working? Not yet?
No.
Okay. If you don't get it working, come talk to me, and we want to make sure that we don't have a problem. Okay, so continuing where we left off, we went through the scientific method. That's the last thing we did last class period, right? Was going through the scientific method and doing some examples. And I talked about how I think that's like the most important thing for you to get out of this class, because except for Samuel, you're looking at being teachers, and if you're teaching it, understanding what the scientific method is fundamental. If you don't understand what science is about, you're just kind of saying, well, here's something people do that I heard about. Okay, now the terms, the ones that I actually care about are the top three. The bottom one I don't care about so much because, like I said, parsing between a theory and a law and a principle is, well, you see different delineations depending where you look. It's not a clear-cut thing. But a fact is something that you can observe. So it's a fact that I am standing on the floor, right? So facts are things you observe. Hypotheses are educated guesses based on scientific ideas to explain an observation. So hypothesis, the key here is, I'm sure I have here educated guess. Nice, cross it out to show that it's important. Educated guess is the first important thing. And then a second important thing that actually doesn't show here is it needs to be based on scientific ideas, right? If it's a scientific hypothesis, it needs to be based on scientific ideas. A non-scientific hypothesis, I suppose, would be based on other ideas. A theory is a well-tested hypothesis that now people have good confidence in. So when we talk about theories, we tend to say these are things that we believe to be true, whereas a hypothesis is, this is something that I'm guessing might be true. Doesn't mean it's true. You never, ever, ever can prove something true in science. But theories are things that we believe to be true that have been tested a lot and have not been found to fail, and tested in a broad range of ways. And then the law here is a general hypothesis that has been tested over and over, never contradicted. And it just says here, also known as a principle. Right? Some people say, no, principle is more narrow and a law is more broad. It depends on who you read. Now, this here I put up in part because it is important, and in part because it also speaks to us specifically. We're here at Seventh-day Institution, where we have, somebody like Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson would say, we're science deniers, because I believe in creation. I believe that there is a God who acts on this earth. And that's what the definition for them is, a science denier. You believe that there's a God who's acting on this earth, you're denying science. Because science has, these days, as a basic tenet, that everything happens because of natural processes. So anything miraculous, i.e. anything that God is acting, is outside of science. And they say, then you're a science denier. Now, our textbook author takes a slightly different point of view. He has toned this statement down quite a bit from what he used to say. In previous versions of the textbook, it said, anyone who believes that science and religion have a conflict either doesn't understand religion or doesn't understand science. There are different ways of viewing the conflicts that may arise when you have a passage in the Bible that says, the Bible says that the bow, God put my bow in the sky, there will be a sign between me and thee that I'll not sin against you, right? So we have, so the bow is there as a sign that God will not send a flood to destroy the earth. On the other hand, science says the rainbow is the result of refraction. Well, light comes into a water droplet, refracts when it goes in. That means it bends. Different colors bend by different amounts. Reflects off the backside, comes out, refracts a second time, bends some more. And that's what causes the dispersion, the spreading out of the light, and it gives you specific angles. Science has a really good explanation for a rainbow. And so you look at these, and a very fundamental Christian will say, no, the rainbow is always a miraculous event. It's always God putting it there as a sign again. And the scientist says the rainbow is a natural phenomenon, and they disagree. There are different ways of approaching it. The one that our textbook author approaches is called the non-overlapping magisteria, that says that, or magisteria is plural, magisteria, yeah, that says that science deals with the physical world. And science is definitely going to be true for things in the physical world. And that religion deals with thoughts and emotions and giving you a purpose in life. And so it's not dealing with physical reality, it's more of a mental construct. And so how can a mental construct ever have a problem with a physical reality? That's his point of view. I disagree completely. I believe that if correctly understood, your religious writings and your scientific findings should agree. That is, as a Christian, I believe that God created the earth, God created the laws of nature, and what we have in the Bible that talks about nature, if we understand what the Bible says correctly and we understand the scientific information correctly, they should agree. So that's my point of view. So I have this here. By now, I'm sure you've all read it, because, who can not read it when the teacher's up there talking? But it's important to have these understandings, because, once again, as I'm teaching this class, there are some things that I'll be talking about that you may not believe that I do, because my religion may be different than your religion. My science may be different than your science, as far as your understanding and what you choose to believe. But it is important that you understand how to deal with these differences. When I talk about the age of the earth being, almost 5 billion years old, according to science, and some people take Ussher's chronology and say, well, according to the Bible, the earth is somewhere in the ballpark of 6,000 years old. You have to have some way of, how do I understand that? And my point of view, which of course I think is the right one, but I told you there's others, so you can choose your own, is that if we understand the Bible correctly, if we understand how to interpret it correctly, and if we understand how to interpret the earth correctly, we should be able to find an agreement between the two at some point. And sometimes I have to throw up my hands and say, I haven't figured it out, but I have faith that when we get to heaven,